This is a prophet of God named Joseph Z. He just laid down some ridiculous nonsense about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the George Floyd protests and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I want to listen to him prophesy from God about all these subjects. Check this out. He's on a TV show called Flashpoint on Kenneth Copeland's TV network. This is from August 6th, 2024, by the way.
But Gene, as we've talked about before, I believe that we're looking at a 4-year redemption cycle. I believe we're going into a time of redemptive instability. We're going into instability because the Lord is going to use the very weapons of the enemy, much like Goliath's sword, to begin to turn this scenario on the enemy. And I believe...
Oh, this sounds like a false prophecy to me. I cannot wait to shoot this down in like a year. I'm marking these down. I'm making note of every false prophecy they give us so we can circle back to it. Okay, we got a new one. Go on.
Redemption is the end of this arc. I believe we're going to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living because the cries of the righteous, they've absolutely been heard. And, you know, I'm so grateful for Pastor Hank and yourself leading the charge with the heart of God in the middle of a world and a culture going mad. And a revelation and Flashpoint for every viewer that's on here, a man or woman with a revelation is not at the mercy of some culture going mad. Jesus is with us. I believe that we see the goodness of the Lord in the next 4 years. I believe we're going to rise up and see it come to pass. There's a lot of visions I've had about it, Pastor.
Visions, he said. A lot of visions he's had to back this up. Okay, go on.
Visions I've had.
By the way, why are his eyes so close together? They are unnaturally close together. I don't like talking about people's looks. This isn't even a looks thing. It's a, is this guy the lizard person thing? Okay, go on.
A lot of visions I've had about it, Pastor Gene. But victory, I believe, is a part of our makeup. It's a part of what God's called us to do.
And so he just lays down this false prophecy that we're going to readdress in like a year or two. And everybody on the show is now going to reaffirm his false prophecy. Say, oh yeah, I got that too. They're so stupid, dude. Sometimes the things that they say. Okay, check this clip out from him.
My uncle was running against Tim Walz in 2022. His name is...
Yeah, Tim Walz is the vice president pick for Kamala Harris. If you're watching this in like 5 years and she lost or something, just want to lay down some groundwork here. So he has some things to say about Tim Walz because his uncle ran against him or something. All right.
My uncle was running against Tim Walz in 2022. His name is Senator Paul Gazelka. He was running against this character right here. And he actually was greatly involved in the 2020 scenario when Walz was not allowing the National Guard to do their job as quickly as they needed to.
It's just a lie.
And there was all these excuses and delays. And that's something you...
That's just a lie. It's a lie. He's lying right now. If he was, either he was not close to the campaign and what was happening at the time, or he's lying. It seems to me it can only be one of the two.
And there was all these excuses and delays, and that's something you'd expect from a guy who got pulled over for drunk driving, and in his drunk driving narrative began to blame it on his deafness.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's going on about right now. To my knowledge, Tim Walz got in a DUI and turned his life around. He went to jail, I think, maybe, and fixed it. You know, a redemption arc, if you will. He's trying to repair the problems that he had in his life, and he was successful, if you ask me. So yeah, I'm all for it, you know? That's good. I have a redemption arc too. You know, I was an addict myself, and I pulled myself together, and now I'm a contributing member of society where I wasn't before. So hats off to Tim Walz for accomplishing that. But let's just let this guy tear him down over it.
Quick interjection, this won't take long, I promise. I'd appreciate it if you watched to the end of the video, or at least a couple extra seconds, because YouTube bases its algorithm off of watch time. The more watch time a video has, the further the video will go. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. The 100 questions are intended to challenge a religious leader, so I'd appreciate it if you give it a read. Okay, back to the video.
Driving narrative began to blame it on his deafness, and
yeah, I don't know what that means. I've never heard that.
And those are the kind of characters that we're dealing with in this scenario. They always put things off on the other setting that they're working with, and so
The hell does that mean?
My Uncle Paul was running against him, and he had an insider view of some of the things that were taking place. And during that same narrative, right during that time, even my daughter went downtown and was standing there with Antifa, like taking photos of them praying as these things were taking place. And I get...
Oh my God, dude. I think he's talking about the George Floyd protests right now. So what does his dad have to do with any of this? He says, even my daughter went and prayed. How are any of these things connected? You're pretending to have some kind of insider info and giving us no reason to think you did.
To tell you, the spirit by which hostility was manufactured and allowed with the issue or the edict of Antichrist trying to come and shut Minnesota down, it was a disgrace to that state. I'm from there. Just like Mike, I'm from there. I grew up in this territory. And when they're beginning to allow these things to happen, it was disgusting, disgraceful. And I think it was Babylon Bee that put out something really funny. You know, Tim Walz, he'll make America, Minnesota. And when you look at this type of narrative, it is horrifying, it's despicable, and I think America should...
Like, what narrative is he even complaining about right now?
I think America should wake up to this, and I think many people will because they're overplaying their hand.
How is anybody overplaying their hand? What does that even mean in this context? Is he just like saying words for the sake of saying them? Boy, would it be embarrassing if there was a clip of Donald Trump praising Tim Walz for how he handled exactly what this guy's talking about right now, wouldn't it?
I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke. And
why does he sound like a 13-year-old boy?
I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days. I asked him to do that, and the whole world was laughing. 2 days, 3 days later, I spoke to the governor. The governor's, I think, on the call, and he's an excellent guy.
Whoopsie daisy. Just picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies there, didn't he? So it seems pretty clear to me that when it's convenient, these people will claim that Tim Walz is like the root of all evil and he did like a terrible job in the George Floyd protests. But when it's inconvenient, they won't say a word, or they'll even praise him when that's the better thing to do. Shameless lies. It's all lies all the way down. Is the point here.
You've got a big National Guard out there that's ready to come in and fight like hell. I tell you, the best, what they did in Minneapolis was incredible.
Yeah, anyway, Tim Walz used to be a little bit more conservative than he is today. To my knowledge, he kind of moved to the left on like gun rights. He's for gun rights, but he's said that there needs to be like a lot more regulation and things. So he's he governs differently now than he used to, luckily. But yeah, that's why Trump was praising him. So they're just like making this up. And also, I don't know what he's talking about, like Antifa was down there or whatever. What? You know who was burning down these buildings, quote unquote? I'll tell you exactly who was doing it. He says it was like Tim Walz's fault, right? Boy, would it be embarrassing if we had evidence that it was actually right-wingers that were trying to spark riots, like race wars or race riots or whatever. Whoops! Picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies once again, didn't we? Boogaloo Boy charged in fire of Minneapolis police precinct during the George Floyd protests. This was like a really big event where the police precinct burned down. It was a Trump supporter that showed up and burned it down. A Trump supporter who was then arrested, I believe. This is from October 2020. A right-wing extremist boasted of driving from Texas to Minneapolis to help set fire to a police precinct during the George Floyd protests, federal prosecutors said. U.S. Attorney Erica McDonald said on Friday that she had charged Ivan Harrison Hunter, a 26-year-old Texas resident, with traveling across state lines to participate in a riot. The charges are the latest example of far-right extremists attempting to use violence to escalate national protests against police brutality into an uprising against the government and even full civil war. Yeah, the Boogaloo Boys are absolutely insane. Like QAnoners or the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers 3%ers or whatever. They're all nutcases. Boy, would it be embarrassing if we had evidence that there were other right-wingers at those protests trying to spark race riots and stuff, trying to spark complete chaos, he said as he played another example of it. Yeah, I'm going to mute it because I don't want copyright or whatever. Dude is smashing in windows with an umbrella. Turns out he's a right-winger. They tracked him down. They arrested his lies all the way down. All of it. This is from ABC News, July 29th, 2020. A masked umbrella-wielding man accused of helping incite riots and looting in the aftermath of George Floyd's police-involved death has been identified as a member of a white supremacist group that aimed to stir racial tensions amid largely peaceful Black Lives Matter protests, according to police. The 32-year-old, dubbed Umbrella Man, was captured in a viral video back in May wearing a black hooded outfit and a black gas mask as he smashed store windows with a sledgehammer and encouraged people to steal, according to a search warrant affidavit filed in court this week. His actions quickly led to the first of several arson fires that police say transformed the peaceful protests into local danger zones, the affidavit said. He's also accused of spray painting the words "Free for Everyone Zone" on the doors of an AutoZone before he allegedly smashed in the window. Well, I mean, it's not really alleged. We're watching it happen right now, right? Somebody certainly smashed him in. The store was broken into and set on fire shortly after, the affidavit said. So who was setting these fires again? I missed it. I'm sorry, prophet of God Joseph Z. I got gummy bears in my ears and I didn't hear you.
And when you look at this type of narrative, it is horrifying, it's despicable, and I think America should wake up to this, and I think many people will because they're overplaying their hand.
Boy, would it be embarrassing if like, everything that he just said that was provably false. God, these people are like, they just, you know what's really disturbing about it? They can, with no morality involvement, no conscience, no nothing, state things that, in my opinion, they know are lies, and state them with such confidence, like they are just factually true. That takes like a special kind of sociopath just to like come up with something and push it for political or religious ends like that. Just lie. Like all the time. Not once, constantly. Like that's your job. Here's another article on the subject. The precinct is on fire. What happened at Minneapolis 3rd Precinct and what it means. Again, this was the one that was done by the Boogaloo Boy, the right-winger. It was 9:53 p.m. when a Minneapolis police officer sent out an urgent call to the other officers who remained in the 3rd Precinct. We need to move, he shouted over the police radio. Protesters were breaking into the back of the station and officers were preparing to take an unprecedented step in American policing to abandon their precinct building. The front has been breached. An officer called over the radio before they fled. They're coming in the back. In dramatic exit, a squad car rammed through a gate near the station in South Minneapolis, leading a motorcade racing from the parking lot. Patrol officers in riot gear left on foot, hurrying past the jeering crowd, hurling rocks and fireworks. But it was all sparked by a right-winger. Literally sparked, I guess you could say. It was set on fire by right-wing provocateurs. These were largely peaceful protests. Now, you may have noticed in this video, they said something to the effect of Tim Walz didn't do anything with the National Guard, or he didn't allow the National Guard to do their job, or whatever the hell he's talking about. The mayor requested Tim Walz send some National Guard, and I think that afternoon he sent them, or it was a span of just hours to my knowledge. He sent the National Guard, but they're criticizing him on this show because he didn't do it like that minute rather than within hours, saying he filed the wrong paperwork or whatever. Like, what? No. Again, like these people just brazenly lie about this stuff. Listen to this one. This is them trying to like demonize Tim Walz even further.
This is what he says. All right. Listen to this in his own words.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Dude, I love how they play a 9-second clip and cut him off in the middle of a sentence. But you know what? That's absolutely right. He's correct in saying that. These people believe that socialism is just taking care of your neighbor or whatever. You can't just care for the people around you. It has to be socialism in their mind. That's what he was saying. There's hyperbole out the nose with them. When I say them, I mean them on screen right here. Like these guys, Mike Lindell, Gene Bailey, Rick Green, Joseph Z.
Wait. What?
Wow.
What? Rick, he actually
I don't understand what's like surprising here.
said it out loud. He said it.
If he
What, he said that you guys think that he's a socialist?
had said it at Patriot Academy last week, anytime the word socialism was mentioned.
Yeah, so he runs this nonprofit called Patriot Academy, I think, where he propagandizes to little kids, basically. He convinces them that socialism bad, communism bad, everything that isn't Jesus and Trump and guns bad, basically. It's insane. So he's at Patriot Academy. Go on.
Academy last week, anytime the word socialism was mentioned, you'd hear all the kids yell out, is bad, very, very bad. It was actually kind of funny because...
No, that's sad. The appropriate emotion would be sad and disturbed.
We had an economist come speak and he was talking about socialism versus capitalism. So he's saying the word socialism a lot.
Economists, right.
Kids are yelling it out every time. Anyway, Gene, believe them. Believe them. When they say they're for this crazy stuff.
He didn't say that, though. He said he's in favor of being neighborly, and your stupid ass is calling him a communist. That's what he was complaining about in that 9-second clip where you cut him off halfway through a sentence.
When they say they're for this crazy stuff, Mike's had to live with it there in Minnesota. And like he said, I mean,
Mike Lindell,
the fact that he made the riots worse by encouraging them. I mean, apparently his wife actually opened the window so she could smell the city's burning, so she could, take in the moment that was.
Where'd you get that? Who told you that? Did God tell you that in a dream? Is that where you got it from? Is this real? Where would he even hear something like that? Who would report on something like that other than like Fox News? In my opinion, that's just like straight up fabricated. I wonder, let's see. Walz, wife, open window, Minnesota, George Floyd. Let's see. Oh, it's New York Post that report. Okay, yeah, that explains it. Here's something from the Daily Beast. I generally trust the Daily Beast for the most part. They can be bad sometimes. But if you want to know if something is trustworthy or not, go to MediaBiasFactCheck.com and just type the name of it in the search bar here, and it should pop it up for you. Here you go. The Daily Beast, bias and credibility rating. Mixed factual reporting, apparently. I didn't know that. Mixed factual reporting, and they are apparently far left. Interesting. Like I said, I trust Media Bias Fact Check pretty well, but apparently the Daily Beast is not very trustworthy. So I guess the factual reporting is dubious. I didn't actually see any other sources, just New York Post, which is right-wing trash, and the Daily Beast, which is questionable, and then Yahoo. Great. Thank you, Yahoo. And then Fox News, maybe? Yeah, I'm not seeing it from any trustworthy sources at all. Tim Walz' wife reveals why she kept the windows open during George Floyd protests. Comments Tim Walz' wait, hang on. Did I miss something? Why would they start a sentence like this? Comments Tim Walz' wife, Gwen Walz, made about the 2020 George Floyd protests are resurfacing. Walz, who was tapped as Vice President Kamala Harris' running mate on Tuesday, was governor of Minnesota when the demonstrations took place in the state's capital. Again, we had more sleepless nights during the riots. I could smell the burning tires, and that was a very real thing. I kept the windows open as long as I could because I felt like it was such a touchstone of what was happening. Okay, so she wasn't saying that she was like enjoying the smell. She's saying that she felt she needed to remember it, and I can respect the hell out of that as a governor's wife. Like, she needs to know what's going on. That seems important.
He said, I mean, the fact that he made the riots worse by encouraging them. I mean, apparently his wife actually opened the window so she could smell the city's burning, so she could, take in the moment that was happening. That's how.
Wow. That's fascinating how he twisted that around, isn't it?
Bad these people are. And it went all over the nation. And as Mike said, around the world when it could have been stopped. The same thing's going to happen with socialism and, frankly, outright communism.
Do they know what those words mean? Do they know how they're different at all? God, this drives me nuts. Like, they use these words completely incorrectly, constantly. Back in the 1930s, they used the term socialism very differently. It did not mean what it means today. At the time, socialism was basically fighting for workers' rights, like unemployment insurance, medical insurance, and whatever other things. A minimum wage and a pension, things like that. That was socialism at the time, back in Germany in the 30s, for example. Today, it's very different. There are nonprofit organizations, and in those nonprofit organizations, this is how all of them run. They're legally required to run this way. They have to have bylaws, and they have to have a voting system with a board, and all the way up the chain, they have voting. They vote on, in a lot of cases, they'll have voting all the way up the chain for like nonprofits where, one person vote on their boss, and then those bosses get together, they vote on their boss, They vote on who gets pay raises. That's a part of nonprofits. They vote on who gets what and who does what and whatever other thing. That's just how it functions. That is socialism. That's how it works, where every company functions like that, where unions are just baked right into the system from the start, basically. Where Mark Zuckerberg can start a company and he can be the CEO or whatever, and, you know, the co-founder or the founder or whatever, but he doesn't own billions of dollars. All that money is kind of split proportionally with the workers. Like, they get a share in the company that can be like dispersed or paid out or whatever other thing. By doing so, you have a stake in the company and you want to work harder to make the company succeed, because if it succeeds, then you succeed. That is actual real socialism. Communism is significantly more complicated, but it's not socialism. It's where the state owns the means of production and supply rather than the workers. So, you know, the only time it's really been implemented, it kind of devolved into like an authoritarian mess. And in my opinion, I think that that's probably an unavoidable byproduct of communism, because when power is centralized in that way, in the way that it's been implemented, it will always cause corruption. It will always cause it. So anyway, yeah, that's generally how it works. But yeah, okay, they're the same, I guess, basically, right?
World when it could have been stopped. The same thing's going to happen with socialism and, frankly, outright communism. If these people get in charge, it's going to be spread all across the nation.
He's acting like communism is like just, or socialism is like a milder form of communism.
This is actually horrible.
It
but
is.
on the other hand, you know what? It's the Democrats saying who they really are, and maybe it'll wake up more people to get involved, to realize this is a nightmare if these two actually were to get elected.
Just insane. Just lying nonsense all the way down, all of it. How can they sleep at night and lie like this? It is nuts. I just listened to like a little bit more of Rick Green and Gene Bailey just like lying, and watch Rick Green switch from a smile to an absolute frown. We're going backwards. That was very sudden. That's awesome. He's mad now. All right, sorry, let's listen.
We're not just going to spend our time here bashing Tim Walz. However, people need to understand, and this is what I was watching today.
By the way, to my knowledge, they are part of a nonprofit organization. I think the Victory Channel, owned by Kenneth Copeland, is a nonprofit that's tax exempt, and they fall under that umbrella. Could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure of it, though.
You know, with him and Kamala.
Hey, you said her name correctly for once.
I keep wanting to throw in a few adjectives, so I won't do that. So when he was talking about, I mean, and you, if you're not paying attention, you would forget scenes like this that you're seeing. You would forget this is Minneapolis in 2020.
It was a mess. And you know whose fault that was? Primarily right-wing provocateurs and the police for murdering a dude. But for the record, I don't condone violence of any sort ever. Period. None. I don't condone burning down buildings or looting or any of the other stuff. Peaceful protest is a kind of like a cornerstone of our democracy and should always be legal and open to the public. But taking it a step beyond that is just not okay.
Forget this guy didn't send help down because the right paperwork wasn't filled out. That's his.
Okay, just nonsense. I wonder how they feel about January 6th. They must be really upset about it with this footage they're playing, right? No, they lied about January 6th. They claim that it was peaceful and that it was provoked by left-wingers. No evidence of that at all, by the way. They just like lie brazenly all the way down. It's just nonsense for these people. It just kills me how they can say this stuff with impunity.
Filled out. That's his words, not mine. This is what we have. Well, so this is our duty at Flashpoint, Rick, to help people understand.
Yeah.
This is why we're not endorsing a candidate that's for this. We can't endorse anybody, but
I think he means legally he can't endorse anybody. Well, technically the code says you can't endorse or oppose any political candidate. So I don't know what he's thinking. Like, you think you're getting past it by like opposing a candidate rather than endorsing one? I think that he's pretty cool from what I've seen. You know, he's got some pretty good ideas. used to be kind of right wing, but has moved to the left. That's good news. For the most part, he's a good guy, but I don't think that I don't think he's worthy of like all the attention that like Fox News is giving him right now. It's like insane. What is the vice president's job anyway? They're just there to take control if the president dies, right? Sure, they meet with foreign dignitaries and embassies and they work with people on projects and plans and things. Yeah, they have a full-time job. But their real job is taken over if their boss dies, right? He's not going to be running the country. It's going to be Kamala. Why are they even complaining about him right now?